religion is an island. We're all intertwined in God's beloved community, as Dr. King said. So the question you're asking is about the prophetic tradition that inspired my father, Rabbi Heschel, and Dr. King. What do the prophets offer us? What do they teach us? They teach us, first of all, that God is affected by the way we treat other people. And that in shaming other human beings, we destroy our own dignity. The prophet Isaiah teaches clearly that there is no room for God in a heart that's filled with arrogance and cynicism. And there is so much cynicism in this country today. We have to make room for God. What do the prophets teach us? The prophets teach us that some are guilty, but all are responsible. And the opposite of good is not evil. The opposite of good is indifference. And Dr. King said in that great speech at Riverside Church, and I was there that night, and he said, a time comes when silence is betrayal. So what do we have to do? I think that there's something very important also in remembering that the prophets come to denounce injustice, because justice is the tool of God, the manifestation of God. Justice is the means of our redemption and the redemption of God from human mendacity. The prophets offer us hope. They tell us, and we need to hear that today more than ever, that evil is never the climax of history, that there must be hope. And I am here in this church, and I look at a cross, and I see that a cross is a symbol both of Christ's suffering and redemption. And so too the Exodus from Egypt. We remember on Passover that the Exodus is that moment of enslavement and liberation. And so perhaps we need to cling to the prophets with that remembrance to denounce injustice, but to keep hope and know that ultimately redemption will come.
Powerful. Thank you, Dr. Heschel. And as we move forward in this conversation, I come to one who's not stayed silent for long, one who I've had to compete with over the microphone in the past. But no, I say that seriously because you have been a foot soldier and a servant leader. With the realities of racism, systemic injustice, this very crucial political moment while we are yet politically divided, can we reconcile in this country? Can we find a point of peace in this world house?
Thank you, Reverend Natasha. We absolutely can. We have to recognize that we are in the dangerous doorway of destiny. And when you arrive at the dangerous doorway of destiny, that's when all the demons come out. We must return in this country and indeed in the world. We must introduce or reintroduce a radical ethic of love. Dr. King gave us his interpretation of the Good Samaritan when he said that a certain man was making his way from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he came among thieves, and he was robbed. The man was reduced from being a human, and he became an object. For the legal scholar, he was an object of discussion. For the robbers, he was an object of exploitation. For the priests, he was an object to avoid. For the Levite, he was an object of curiosity. For the innkeeper, he was an object of a customer who would pay. Only to the Samaritan was he someone to be loved. And when I look at this, Reverend Rice, I really see that the man that was laying in the middle of the street was not a man at all. Neither was the man a woman. The man laying in the street was, in a real sense, the symbol of something that needed to be changed and reconciled, healed and loved. The man wasn't a man or a woman, it was Congress. It was not Congress, it was a country. It wasn't a country, it was a continent. It was not a continent, it was the entire world that needed to be changed. And what the Samaritan did was went into this dangerous space with this radical ethic of love and said, I'm going to touch this, I'm going to change this, I'm going to transform this. He did as Dr. King said, he put the I in the thigh and went and touched and transformed. It's a dangerous place to go because the robbers many times would set it up in a way where they would put someone in the road, and when some good person would come along, then the thieves would come out and get them. But he did not let that disturb him. He did not let the danger of the moment outshine the need for a radical ethic of love. And I think when we return to a radical ethic of love, when we see ourselves in the middle of the street, our country in the middle of the street, our nation in the middle of the street, the state of Georgia in the middle of the street, then we can begin to bring about the type of healing that causes us to reconcile and become once again the Imago Dei, the children of God, the beloved community.
My. Faith and reconciliation. Can we reconcile? Well, the answer offered by this panel today, we must be reborn. We must speak up. We must take hold of hope, as the prophets have done before, and as the prophet Dr. King that we honor today continues to encourage us to do. And thank you for sharing of your father's legacy, Rabbi Heschel. And we must take hold of love. Dr. King said in his letter from the Birmingham jail, if I may be accused of being an extremist, may I be that extremist of love. May his witness of loving radically. You don't need to love, it's not hard to love someone you like. Anyone can do that. But to love the unlovable, to fight on the side of the unlovable from those who may be different by faith, by status, by upbringing, may we also take hold of the hope amongst all our traditions, of the call and the charge for justice, as we even heard in our Quran reading this day, and be the beloved community as we all shift and align. Thank you so much for joining us today in this critical conversation. Won't you all join me in thanking our panel? And may this conversation continue to resonate as we all think on this topic. Thank you.
Wow, that's a big word and a powerful word. And we know in the Christian faith that God has given to us the ministry of reconciliation. And on the pathway, there must be restoration. And in some cases, repairing the breach, so that as you go forward in a new relationship, you can go not quite with a clean slate, but with a new pathway forward where you respect and regard and agree not to violate again. The Word of God tells us that many are called and few are chosen. And I couldn't be more proud right now to be a Black woman, an HBCU graduate, and a member of the oldest Black woman Greek organization, Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. As I introduce the person who will represent these United States, who's coming to us via live stream, our first woman, Black and Asian, Vice President and HBCU graduate, and my Sarah, Vice President Kamala Harris.